it's Arton at Floatsting. This is my first video slash podcast, so we'll see how it goes. I'm here with Dr. Richard Bailey. He's a long-time friend and colleague of mine, and we've been having lots of conversations over the last few months about sport and learning and talent and expertise. So I thought it would actually be worth recording one of those conversations so that you can be in on it too, and you can ask us any questions that you've got via our website or via Rich on Twitter. So I'll just kind of... Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Rich?
Yeah. Hi everyone. As Arton said, I'm Dr. Richard Bailey. We should probably explain the noise that you can hear in the background. We're at Wavertree Athletics Centre in Liverpool, where I live. Obviously not in the athletics centre. There's 800 metres race going on behind us, so hopefully that
we wanted to make this as authentic sport in...
Yeah, it's atmosphere. So yes, so
what do you do, Rich?
Well, I write and research and advise about sport for various different groups. I've worked for the English, Welsh, Scottish governments, UNESCO. I was part of the team that contributed to Design to Move, that's currently having a bit of an impact around the world, and I used to be a university professor. So a bit of a mix of backgrounds, but as you say, we've come together with a joint or shared fascination with learning, and that's what we're talking about today, isn't it?
Yeah, we met on a course to do with accelerated learning. It was probably about 8 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You were teaching me.
Yeah, I was teaching Rich. I was teaching.
Very firm.
Very firm.
Yeah.
Rich also is in case you didn't get a grasp of it then, Rich is also a professional name dropper. So yeah, I just thought I'd share with you that there at home.
Yeah, well that's a fair point. I was saying this to Dwayne Chambers the other day, but it's a bit of a flaw I have, so I apologise for that. Is it worth mentioning our very clever idea?
So Rich has a bag here. I don't know how well in shot it is. We've got a bag full of random questions that we came up with for each other and based on questions that I've been asked from Floatsting followers. So we're going to pull questions out of this little bag to address between us. Yep. So maybe Rich will answer, maybe I'll answer, maybe we'll both answer. We'll probably go off on tangents. We'll probably say some rather offensive, jokey remarks to each other.
Yep.
That tends to be what happens when we meet up.
So apologies for that.
Yeah, apologies for that in advance. But do you want to be first, Rich?
I'll ask. Okay, let's have a look.
Are you going to ask the first?
Am I asking one of you? I'll ask. Okay. Can you give an example or examples of the best learning environment you've come across?
Oh, the best learning environment I've come across. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't need to have thoughts because I'm asking the question.
You're asking the question. You could have helped me out.
Yes.
Best learning environments that I've come across. So one that springs to mind because of the immediacy of it was I was at where was it? I was in Lee a few weeks ago with Jay Cochran and Tim Lees, who run a youth soccer academy called IFDA, and one of the things that struck me about this youth soccer academy, where they had, I don't know, 70, 80 kids on a cold, dark Wednesday night, was the love for the coaches that they actually had. It's quite a rare thing to see kids so engaged with the coaches that are taking practice with them, rather than just being ordered about and given drills to do. There was a personal connection between the learners and the coaches, teachers, whatever you want to call them, that I think is quite rare in learning environments. But in my experience, I think that the more of that type of connection that there can be, the stronger the learning transfer tends to be.
Yeah, I did some research at Fulham Football Club on their academy programme, and I was struck by the positive environment, the respect that went both ways between the players and the coaches. It was really nice to see, and I think football clubs have kind of a bad reputation for maybe for being a little bit too kind of ambitious for the sake of the kid at the expense of the children and so on. But environments like that just seem to be about the love of the game and mutual respect. I think that's the kind of environment that we all should aspire to.
What about in your time in the martial arts? Rich used to be a bit of a big-time martial artist back in your day, didn't you, Rich?
Yeah, as opposed to a big martial artist as I am now.
As opposed to a big martial artist.
Yeah, that's
I wasn't
right.
going to say anything, but
yeah, I was a karate, kickboxing and Thai boxing competitor, and on occasion champion. Well, martial arts are strange really because they're so varied. When I was doing Thai boxing, which is my most successful sport, I think, I don't think I would call it a positive learning environment. I mean, it was very intensive, very aggressive, very, I suppose you would say, full on. But I went on lots and lots of other courses, and some of those are rather lovely and rather pleasant. And to this day, I'm still friends with the people I've met on those courses. But I think truthfully, I think that any sport has the potential for generating that, and that has to be the aspiration. If you're training to be an elite competitor, I think there comes a point where enjoyment has to step aside and it has to become a little bit more serious. But that doesn't mean it still can't be respectful and supportive and positive. And the best environments have that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another positive environment that comes to mind is my old strength and conditioning coach at Grantham. We used to train at a place called Smart Fitness up in the northeast, and Nick's regard for everybody that he was training, from kind of everyday Joes to semi-professional and professional athletes. It was very, very inclusive and very encouraging. There was never anything that made anybody feel unwelcome within that environment. There was never anything that anybody did that would stand them instead for any ridicule from any of the training partners or the coach themselves. I mean, I've seen very negative coaching environments where coaches come down hard on players and see it as a kind of badge of merit. The harder they can come down on the people that they're training, the better. The more they can flex their authoritative muscles, the better. And I trained for almost 2 years with Nick, and there was nothing ever like that. It was only ever a positive learning environment that he'd set in place.
Yeah, I feel the same about. There's a boxing gym, or boxing and kickboxing gym in North Kent on the Isle of Sheppey, called the Invicta Gym, and Ray Askew is one of my oldest friends. We trained together years and years and years ago. Used to compete together, and he still teaches and he still coaches, and he's shifted progressively towards professional boxing, and he's I would say without a doubt the best boxing coach in the area. And other people would agree with me. But what's interesting is the love that people hold, the love and respect that people hold towards him, and that is, I'm convinced, because he's all about his fighters. He cares about them, and he's supportive about them, and the decisions he makes in the training are to do with their well-being, rather than his own personal advancement. Consequently, there's a lot of women go to the gym, a lot of older people go to the gym, people who aren't such in good shape feel able to go in the gym, because everybody feels included, everybody feels welcome. There's no judgment, there's no pecking order. It's just about the sport.
I find it really interesting how, without any rehearsal, without any idea on one of our parts what questions are coming out of our little bag, that when we talked about the best learning environments we've came across, we've not at all talked about methodology, we've not talked about training methods, coaching methods, we've talked about personal connection between the coach or the trainer or the person imparting knowledge in some respect, and the learners. So that's a kind of spontaneous indication of, I think, where we both stand with regards to that.
But I think a lot of people feel like that. I interviewed about 12 boxers for a piece of research I did recently, and I said to them, can you tell me the best boxing coach you've ever met, that you've ever worked with, and what was so great about them? And these were competitive fighters, and the most frequently used word was kind. Now, you wouldn't expect that in a boxing gym, would you?
No, it's not. It's not the word that a lot of people will come to expect in that environment.
They were kind, and what they meant over and over again, they said, they had my interests at heart.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. I expected expertise, success, competitiveness, all sorts of things, training, fitness. Yeah, and those things did come up, but they were a long way behind. It's just a kind person.
Interesting.
Cool.
Go for,
next question.
Go for question number 2 out of the magic bag. Who has been your best coach and why?
Right. Well, that question is actually quite an easy one for me, because that would be Ray, who I've just mentioned. We trained together on and off for 20 years. And I think he would be somebody I'd qualify as being kind, but immensely knowledgeable. And the fact that he went from karate, like we both started in karate, we both competed in judo, we both competed in kickboxing, and then we both became coaches. And I think he would have to be the best coach. The best trainer I had was my Thai boxing coach, because I've never been in as good shape as my life. I mean, it's such a tough sport. You have to be physically able. And then I had other coaches who were gifted coaches but were incomplete. So 2 coaches particularly who were very, very well known, so I won't mention their names, really well known, had a big impact upon my personal performance, both as a performer and as a coach. But they also had huge flaws, personality flaws. For example, neither of them was kind or supportive or nurturing. It was very much about them. In both cases, they were enormously knowledgeable, but the personal qualities were missing. So consequently, I benefited from the experience of working with them, but emotionally, I felt no drive to stay with them, because I didn't feel that they were the whole package.
Mm-hmm. I think in a sporting context, I'd say my 2 best coaches that I've had in my lifetime were Nick Grantham, that I mentioned before, my old strength and conditioning coach, and also I had a coach. I used to play something akin to futsal when I was a teenager, and I had a coach called Peter Hayton, who actually ended up getting me involved in coaching when the age group that I was part of disbanded. Peter, again, the key quality that set him aside from everybody was his love for the people that he was coaching. His technical knowledge was great. I think he's out in the States now, coaching junior football out there. But yeah, again, it wasn't about the techniques. I mean, I remember coming across coaches within that industry that Peter was involved in, highly technically advanced coaches that you just didn't want to be around. There was no reason other than their knowledge to be around them. So you would be kind of counting the minutes until the end of sessions sometimes with people like that. And I think in that frame of mind, nobody's really fit to learn anything.
I mean, it's not surprising that there are relatively few people, I think, that we would say were really outstanding coaches that we've personally trained with. Because it's quite difficult, and I mean, I don't consider myself an outstanding coach, because I recognise I have gaps in my my repertoire that mean that if this was the career that I was going to follow, then there'd have to be a lot of personal and professional development to address those. I suppose the difference is that some people aren't even aware of that. And that makes the difference.
There's an awareness of gaps in your personal repertoire that needs to come with improvement in any of these fields. I mean, I remember my own coaching practice. I coached this futsal-like sport from the age of about 16, 17 through till about 20, 21, and for the first year and a half of my coaching, I had an age group that was 10-year-old to about 14 years old. Peter had faith in me to impart the technical capabilities that I had to the group that he'd given me to coach. Now, my technical knowledge was very good, and now looking back, wasn't as good as I thought it was at the time. But what I did have was a belief that all of the kids in the group could improve. And I think being with them over the course of about a year and a half, many of the players went on to develop. Some of them already belonged to clubs external to our practice. Some of them went on to become better players who were picked up by clubs external to our practice. I think there was a consistency factor that played a part. I think, like I said, my attitude that they could improve anything incrementally, at least, that was ever present in my practice, even though I didn't know anything about coaching theories, teaching theories,
mindset, all that type of thing.
I didn't know anything of that at the time. I remember the only, apart from the futsal education that they'd given me at the time, I remember going out and buying an SAQ book to do speed drills, which I probably did to death with them in warm-ups and in early sessions. So my technical knowledge and my theoretical knowledge was massively lacking. But again, I think that my belief in their ability to learn was probably what set me aside from maybe some other coaches that they'd had. And the parents appreciated it as well. You know, I had a lot of support from the parents, and I actually think that that's a massive part of the learning environment. So that the coaches and the learners and the wider family network are all an integrated whole, because you know, if that support isn't there from
we know this from school, of course. Research into school showed that you need the whole network in place. But I also think it's interesting you say about, you know, carry on learning and all things like that, because it seems to me that if you look at the evidence, that the ability to learn, to carry on learning, to take new information and translate it for your purposes, is one of the characteristics of a talented individual in various different fields. It seems to me that suggests expertise is this ongoing process. It's not a place that you arrive. It is a type of journey, and characterised, in my opinion, by openness to learning.